This is from July 26, 2019. The government officially announced this week that democracy in America is dead. On Wednesday, this was the week of July 26, 2019. On Wednesday, a congresswoman asked the special prosecutor who investigated Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election if she would be indicted, convicted, and incarcerated for a long time if she had committed the several acts of obstruction of justice that President Trump has committed that are documented in the special prosecutor's report. The special prosecutor, Robert Mueller, was known prior to Wednesday as a guardian of the rule of law in our free and democratic society. But Mueller's brief and succinct answer officially revealed that freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, and Mueller's reputation as a guardian of the Constitution and American norms and values, are public relations tropes used to mollify and control the masses, get them to fight stupid wars, work meaningless jobs, and endure relentless assaults on their freedom to live as they see fit, brainwashed with an illusion of personal dignity. The announcement was only notable by dint of its official nature. Many Americans knew of the oppressive state of affairs. This group is largely represented by the people who don't vote and otherwise drop out of societal participation, endeavoring to be invisible in order to avoid societal demands as much as possible. These anonymous souls haunt the national landscape with an insubordinate passivity and abandoned potential. Men and women live lives of quiet desperation for existential reasons. Mueller's answer to the Congresswoman only spoke to the government's role in this mass suicide. Many other Americans don't reflect upon freedom and democracy at all. They are thoroughly socialized. They do horrible and immoral things because they are expected to do so as they work at their jobs. They do the tedious chores of necessity required by their material lives and spend the rest of their time escaping into sensations that they find pleasurable, an all-encompassing concept of leisure called fun. These people aren't quietly desperate. They do what they are told. They enjoy the perks and accept the sorrows of doing what they are told. They call this bondage life. When consideration of other possibilities are proposed to them, they become fearful and agitated. Members of this group often self-identify as Republicans and moderate Democrats. Some Americans took the public relations tropes of American freedom, democracy, and rule of law very much to heart. They believed the propaganda and the sentimental hokum. They had a romantic view of this country because of its beautiful stated values. They saw America as a nation committed to those values, failing at times and far less than perfect, but always noble in its pursuit. They won't believe any of that anymore after Mueller's answer, and they will become revolutionaries. A few Americans have been such revolutionaries for a long time. They know America has never been a democracy, and they've worked in many different ways to try to change it into one. A few Americans have looked cynically upon the power structure, the nobodies, the worker bees, the seps, and the do-gooders, and their various levels of understanding and concern about democracy. These Americans are called criminals, and they ironically often control the power structure that they disdain themselves. Success in the power structure is simply and obviously dependent on the ability to obtain power. And criminals are clearly good at that. The ruthless pursuit of power merely for the sensation of having it is a narcissistic endeavor that serves nothing but the ego of the pursuer. Everyone not engaged in that pursuit suffers abuse, injustice, and dissatisfaction. And that is America today. Mueller never was a defender of the rule of law and our constitutional system. Mueller has always been, from his time in combat in Vietnam, a defender of the power structure. Mueller is not the oppressor himself. Mueller is the oppressor's employee. Mueller's answer to the Congresswoman revealed it all. Would she go to jail if she did what Trump did? Well, Mueller replied with a faint smile of resignation. Most people would, but you are a member of Congress. No man is above the law. My ass. Position, money, they matter. Tears for the rich and powerful when they break the law. The federal death penalty reinstated this week for everyone else. Mueller was my pride in being a lawyer for the last 2 years. Yes, most lawyers are merely mechanics fixing and exploiting systems that serve the ends of our masters. But a lawyer could stand for our rights and equality under the law. I believed in Mueller. Not anymore. Atticus Finch is just a character in a book. That book is important because it fills us with dissatisfaction with the incongruity between what we are born knowing in our hearts and the reality of how we live. It may seem discouraging to some that we are still on that first step, confronting the dissonance between harsh reality and what we know to be true. Trump has gotten away with it. He won't be impeached. He won't ever go to jail. And let me revise this a little from them. I mean, he may be impeached. But the point is that he would never see the justice that he deserves. The legal and political consequences for his actions and the actions of the Republican Party and the entire regime of special interest of rich people who have been running our lives and ruining them will never see justice. Trump isn't an aberration. He is nothing new, just more obvious. The legal establishment, in the person of Mueller, announced on Wednesday that the law comes in second place to money and power, which isn't a newsflash, to anyone who lives here. The leading Democratic candidate for 2020 says that everything was great in 2015 before Trump. The Iraq War, the 2008 crash, the criminal justice system, the criminalized immigration system, Obama going to Flint and saying that no one should be prosecuted and that the water was clean, which, of course, was unconscionable when he did that because Rick Snyder, the governor of Michigan, and his cronies that made the Flint water crisis happen never saw justice either. But I understand this morning why Obama did it, although it doesn't make me think that it's right. But with the problems with the water system in Newark and the defense that the governor of New Jersey is giving to this state of affairs is that he's claiming, I'm sure rightly, that this is a national problem. So what's happened exactly? The era of big government is over. Reagan said it. Clinton codified it. The country went completely to the ownership of corporate interests, and everything was allowed to go to hell. So now we have compromised water systems. So government hasn't been doing its job because it's just been characterized as a complete evil. In the meantime, the real evil was that people were stealing all the money that should have been used for the public welfare. So Obama said, well, there's no criminal penalties here because he realized that if there were criminal penalties there, every public official would go to jail because this problem is going to be happening all the time, all over the place. And I think it's consistent with what Obama did, when he decided he wasn't going to pursue any criminal remedies related to the Iraq War. He wasn't going to go after that because he realized that this would be a constant problem. I mean, every administration would prosecute the preceding one, and they all would go to jail, and then there would be no trust in the system anyway. However, what happened with Trump is that Trump is the zenith of what's been going on for a long time, as I say in this piece. So now we get to a place where the criminality is obvious. So now the distrust of the system has been accomplished anyway. And until we say that what's going on is wrong, and we have a democracy, in other words, that we have a say and an interest, and that we're stakeholders in our own lives, and we have something to say about how we're governed, we're going to have what we have now, which is tyranny. So all that is fine and dandy. The question, as always, is what to do. There are all sorts of revolutions. You can start one or two right where you are. I'm doing it in this easy chair. I'm doing it online. Rightfully criticized about it, but I'm doing it with the available power that I have to myself, which is not much. But I believe in the power and the powerless, and I believe in the power of writing. And I believe in the power of theater, which I think in some strange way this is. This, Mac looking at me here. And the revolution in a lot of ways. I'm breaking a lot of rules. I'm breaking the rules of, for example, you're not supposed to read when you put a video out. I want to read. I want to get the words right. Now I'm diverting from the text, so I'm looking into the camera, and perhaps this creates some illusion of talking to you. I'm not really talking to you. Well, this is the same as if you read a piece. I mean, and to me, the words are what's important in the writing. So I'm digressing from this piece because some of my thinking has changed. And this is actually the value of, I have some improvisation in my background, and this is the value of improvisation because this is what you have to do because to updates going on. So revolution can be on that point. This is also a lot longer, until well, people don't want to watch this. Well, it is what it is. Okay. It is what it is. So people will watch what they watch. There's 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 a lot of these rules now that are broken, that need to be broken. I also think, when people say that it should be shorter, uh, I don't know if insult is the word, because I don't think that they're trying to put me down, but it's really maybe it's a projection of a lack of confidence on their part, because I saw yesterday on TV, Bernie Sanders was being interviewed, and he was praised for having a plan and having statements that were sprawling, that they were ambitious in scope. It would be one thing to me. This is a bugaboo of mine. Concise does not mean short. Concise means that it's not repetitive. And I started going through. I'm doing this project now that any regular readers or viewers know that I'm going back through my blog, and I'm pulling out different pieces that I think are worthwhile, and there's kind of a selection process. Every one of my pieces doesn't make this vlog VLOG format, right? So I'm going through and I'm doing that, and I'm looking at it. It's like to me, it's a lot of good material. It's I'm not saying that to brag on myself. I mean, that's a creative process. It's a many minutes and many words, and also what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to some university. Basically, what I talk about, and it is talk because it's spoken word, even when it's written. So spoken word is the genre. I mean, just a few things. I mean, I talk about my life, and I talk about my life experience, my immediate experience, and I talk about political and cultural things. And most of the political ones involve the federal government, and most of the cultural things involve movies. And I mean, there will be some other things will come up, but that's basically it. My life, political things, and cultural things. And what I try to do in the writing is I try to get to universals. So I don't want it to be mere opinion. When I'm talking about myself, I don't want it to be therapy. I start with said if I'm having an experience, other people have it. It's not exactly the same. We all do it individually, but that's the whole idea behind storytelling. So there's that aspect of what I'm doing. And right now, what am I doing with this piece? Uh, what I'm doing with this piece is I'm deconstructing the experience of watching Mueller testify before Congress. And this one comment that he made to the Congresswoman, that basically there was a different standard, that if you were a person of power in Congress, and by implication the President of the United States, the same rules don't apply to you as apply to everybody else. So the idea that no one's above the rule of law is a joke. And if people are above the rule of law, then we don't have a democracy, because then all men aren't created equal. And everybody doesn't have a say. And your vote really doesn't mean anything. There's all this manipulation. And I mean, and I think that is not just of this moment, and it's not just of Trump. This has been since the beginning of this country, when we had slavery, when at first you had to be a white man that owned land in order to vote, right? And we didn't have direct election as senators until the 1920 or something like that. Women couldn't vote until 1920. I mean, the idea we've never had anything approaching a full democracy in this country, and it shows the way people are treated. People aren't educated; they're manipulated by the media, and so this piece is getting at that. This is an aspect of the American character. And I realize something too, now that I'm doing this improvised digression, which I'm kind of experimenting with. It's not as good as the writing. Okay, it's not as good as the writing, but it's okay. It has other values to it. So now I'm giving you the illusion that I'm directly talking to you. Oh yeah, and then that's another thing about the reading too. The idea that I have is just read it. Just the words. The words are what's important. That's all. The words are what's important. As far as being worried about how long something is, or really, the very rough nature of these videos, or that's all marketing, which I'm completely sick of. You know, okay. Well, let's get back to the text here. There are all sorts of revolutions. Start one or two right where you are. Don't just take it, hide from it, ignore it, escape from it into sensations to ease the pain. How do you work? How do you love? How do you live? For who? For what? All societies are evil. American evil has come out of the closet. Grifters, murderers, fascists, and pedophiles run the show. And Christian Marines who became lawyers and lived and worked with pristine white knight reputations tell us with quavering old man voices that is just the way it is. How can you be part of all that? You can't. You must be something different. You can't look for Mueller or Harper Lee, for that matter, to do it for you. No one is coming to save you. The world sucks and always has sucked. But that To Kill a Mockingbird thing in your soul is part of the world too. What are you going to do with that To Kill a Mockingbird thing? Copyright 2019, Richard Thomas.